Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday's Tips with Kimberly. I hope you are all, let's see if we can try that one again. I hope you're all excited about learning how to use your ruffle foot, or your ruffler foot is what we're going to work on today. I was going to kind of compare the gather foot and the ruffle foot, but as I was doing my homework, I decided we're just going to go over the ruffler today. So if you don't have a ruffle foot, or excuse me, a ruffler foot, it's probably going to be something you're going to want to invest in by the end of this little video. I am obsessed with it simply because of when my daughter was growing up, or when she was little. I can't tell you how many hours I spent, like most of you moms, gathering up the fabric to make a ruffle on her dress. So once we...
Against my will.
Once I discovered the ruffler, oh my goodness, the things that you can do with it. So I'm going to start off by showing you some of the fun things you can do with a ruffler. So let's start off by showing you what it looks like. So this is your ruffler, and I'm hoping I'm doing this good because Melissa is going to tell me that I need to make sure I'm by the camera. So your ruffler foot will look like this. And then I'm going to show you some things that you can do with that ruffler foot. Well, I like to make tea towels, and they're a great gift. For those of you that have embroidery machines, you can make ruffles to go on the bottom of your towels that you're giving away. I also like to finish the edges of my ruffler, or my ruffle piece, so I'll show you that here in a minute too. So putting them on the edges of the towels is always nice. The other thing that I love to do is pillows. It's one of my favorite things to make. So I like to put ruffles on my pillows as well. And then I'm going to show you another pillow that we did. And this is kind of a Melissa and Kimberly pattern that we did. So ruffles can do lots of decorating on your pillows as well. So this is a folded over fabric. And so I don't have to finish my edges. It's all done for me. So those are just some fun things that you can do with your ruffle foot. One other thing that you can do is decorate. So if you look at my flowers here, they have a ruffle around the button. So if I take that off,
it's a very naked wall hanging.
It's a very naked wall hanging. So with making some adjustments to my ruffle foot, I can make a cover or a little flower for my button. So I'm going to put that back on real quick so that you'll be able to see how cute that turns out. And then we have another one here. So you can take your fun buttons and just give anything a little uplift. Okay.
Carol, can you not see anything, or is anybody else having troubles with hearing or seeing anything?
We can't hear me or see me?
Kirsten, it does both.
Okay, so we can proceed.
Carol, if you're having a hard time, you might try closing out of the video and restarting it if you can't hear it or see it, because it looks like everybody else is doing fine.
Okay, so there are some important tools that you'll want to have right by your sewing machine, because I guarantee you these things are going to happen to you. The ruffler is a very powerful tool on your sewing machine. So it can play havoc with your needles. It can play havoc with your screws on your machine. So it's extremely important to have screwdrivers with you. So I usually have a longer handled screwdriver, which I use this one a lot because I can grip it better. And I really like my 3-in-1 screwdriver from Brother or Baby Lock or any of the other manufacturers that have those, because remember, the ruffler will fit tons of machines out there, and there is probably a ruffler for every machine out there. So it doesn't matter the machine you're using. I say just use the ruffler, it's fun. Okay, the other thing you're going to want to have on hand is your needles. I always have extra needles by me, because lo and behold, when you're doing this, if you are just off that little bit, you're going to break a needle. I have broken tons of needles, but I am now at that point where I very rarely break a needle doing my ruffler. However, I'll probably do it today while I'm showing you.
Just because you said something.
Just because I said something. The other thing I like to have is a stiletto. So I just grabbed this one. It's not necessarily the one I use every time, but I love this Hera marker. It's got lots of uses to it. So I always have a stiletto with me. And for those of you that don't know what a stiletto is a sharp end that you can actually use underneath your needle plate rather than your fingers getting close to your needle. Your stiletto's getting close to your needle. And you will see as you are finishing your ruffle how it's important to keep it straight. And so that stiletto helps you do that with your fingers, not in there. Especially for all of us that have COVID nails, we don't have our nails to protect us. The other thing that I think is important to have with a ruffle foot is a pair of glasses, whether you wear them or not. Only one time did I break a needle and it shot straight out at me. So as a safety feature, I like to make sure my glasses are on. Okay, so with that being said, let's get busy and learn about our ruffle foot. So I have a snap-on ruffle foot. I'm going to give Melissa just a minute I'm going to hold this down here so that she can see. And I'm actually going to put these handy-dandy glasses on so I can see what I'm talking about. So I am working on a brother machine. So I actually have the brother foot, the ruffler foot. Is that got
there?
That?
You go.
All right. So I have the brother ruffler foot. Like I say, you can get these for other machines. This is a snap-on foot. So I'm going to go ahead and put that over here. And what I mean by snap-on, for those of you that don't know, is my foot is going to snap on. Is that better, Melissa?
Yep.
Okay. My foot is going to snap on using my bar right here. Okay. So with your ruffler, you are going to be putting your fabric right in between these two metal pieces. This is actually your ruffling blade. So we're going to need our fabric to be right between here so this ruffle blade can ruffle my fabric as we go through. Okay.
I'm going to grab that and bring it a little closer so that they can see. Ooh, sorry guys, you can see that little piece sticking out underneath here.
How about I just hold that up there? Would that be easier for them to see? Okay. The next piece that I'm going to show you is the needle hole. So I'm going to need to make sure that my needle is going to go directly in the center of that hole. I'm going to guarantee you, well, I'm not going to guarantee you, but I'm going to bank you money that most of our machines are not going to have that needle coming up directly in the center of that hole. So I'm going to show you how to check it and how to change it to make it go between there. The next piece of our ruffling foot are some adjustments. So these two screws in the back, and I'm going to hold this way so that you can see what screws I'm actually going to talk about, but I'm going to tip it up just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. So this back screw here, if I loosen it, is going to move my hole area or my foot here back and forth. You may have to make some adjustments on that with your particular machine. I didn't have to make any out of the package. Mine was set perfectly, but I have had customers who I have had to help them adjust that part. The second screw is the adjustment screw of how far in and out this part goes of my my ruffler. So you're going to need to make these two adjustments if need be once you get this foot on your machine and you make sure that everything is running good. The next part that we have on our ruffler foot is going to be this little black, I call it the U shape to make it easy for you, but this piece is actually going to go over our needle bar when we put our foot on. So last night as I'm playing around, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't do a ruffle. Well, the reason was I didn't have my foot on correctly, so that makes a huge part of your ruffle. Okay, so let's go to the front of our foot. So you have another screw with a black handle on it, or a black cover on it. When we're doing our ruffle, our fabric is feeding through with our blade. Well, we can back that off or tighten it up. So what that will do for us is either put more fabric going through or backing it off and not having as much fabric come through. So I don't know if you can see this, but can we see that through there, Melissa?
A little bit further down.
We have some adjustment marks right here. So what I like to do, and I've done, I have made a mental note of where I am for a lot of fabric coming through and where I am for not so much fabric coming through. So if you back it off, it's going to have less fabric going through. And we'll go over that and I'll show you some samples.
So would that make a smaller ruffle then?
It will. And I've made some samples to show you. So let's show you how to adjust. Oh, one more thing. Two more things, quite honestly. We have little notches on the top of our ruffler. So one is a star, and then we have 1, 6, or 12. These are are going to be your most adjusted parts. If I set my ruffler on 1, that means every time my machine makes a stitch, it's going to make a ruffle. Okay, so that's, if you're going to want a real ruffled ruffle, that's where you're going to leave it. Number 6 is going to give you more of a pleated look. So the flowers that I showed you, I did pleats. The American pillow I showed you, that is a pleat every 6 stitches. That is my favorite one. I probably use that 99% of the time. Number 12 is going to give me every 12 stitches. It's going to give me a pleat. So to put that all in a little bit more of a perspective for you, I'm going to grab my samples. So when I was doing my ruffles, this is how my machine looked. Can you see that? Or do I need to go closer?
I'll just zoom in for you.
Okay. So as I was using my ruffler, so I was on number 1, this is how I look. It's going to ruffle with every single stitch I do. So as I moved along, I loosened up how much fabric was going through my ruffler, and see how much looser it is. So that's just me making adjustments. The other adjustment that you can make to have less of a bulk is to change your stitch length. So if you want your ruffle to not be real close together, take that 2.5 default stitch length and move it up. My suggestion for you is to take like a 12-inch piece of fabric, ruffle it up just the way your sewing machine comes. And what that's going to do for you is help you in your measuring as you use your ruffler more. You're going to be able to say, okay, that was a 12-inch piece of fabric, and when I was done ruffling at 2.5 stitch length, I got 6 inches of a ruffle. So when you are calculating to make a garment or make a pillow, you can decide how much fabric you're going to need for that ruffle. Okay, that's kind of what I've done. I have seen lots of charts out there, but I do find that different sewing machines and different manufacturers of sewing machines, it's different. So I have found the best way for me to do it is something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to number 6. If I have it on number 6, this is with my machine set up. This is with the normal default of the sewing machine. This is how my stitch comes out, or my pleat comes out. I adjusted it to 3.5, and you can see how much further apart my pleats are. And then I adjusted it to 4.5, and I'm a lot further apart.
Well, that'd be good for a bed skirt.
Wouldn't it? Exactly. And speaking of bed skirts, I'm going to show you how to make one super fast so I can actually attach my ruffle to my fabric at the same time. So there's a couple samples to show you what it actually looks like. And then this, I think I went to 5.5, so I even went further with that. But that was last night, and who remembers last night, right? Okay. So the other fun thing to do with your ruffler doesn't mean you're just doing ruffles. You can do all kinds of fun things. So this would make adorable on, a garment, a pillow, whatever you're doing. So I just took and ran my ruffler down the center and ruffled it up. Okay? Little just fun things you can do. So, are we ready to get going and learn how to do this? I am going to take my regular foot off of my sewing machine. The other thing I'm going to make sure and do, some of you have machines that you default to when you turn your machine on, the needle's at the left-hand side. It's extremely important to set your machine to go in the center with your needle position. If you don't, you will forget and you will break a needle. So I like to make sure I do that before I begin. The second thing that I like to check is to make sure I have a full bobbin. If you don't have a full bobbin and you're going to do any kind of yardage on your ruffler, you're going to have to stop halfway through and take that fabric out of your ruffler. I am talking from experience. It's not fun to put it back in and get caught up. But that being said, I'm going to show you how easy it can be to take out your ruffle. Was that quick and easy? Yeah, I learned that when putting a big long ruffle on something, and I said, oh no, I forgot to check my bobbin, and I ran out of thread. So I popped it all and started all over again. So, bobbin, needle, make sure you have a good needle in. Those of you that are quilters and you are using your piecing needle, I would suggest changing it. Your piecing needle is extremely sharp on the end, and that's not going to work. Typically, I will put in a universal needle, or if you're working with knits, put in knits. The second thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that your needle is in there super, super tight. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to want to make sure that your ankle is on super, super tight. Because if those two things are not tight, you're going to break a needle. Okay? So that being said, if I am doing a lot of ruffling, even if I was doing the towel ruffle on there, halfway through it, I'll stop and make sure everything's tight. Remember, these two parts are jiggling a lot, so they are going to loosen up as it's hitting. It will loosen it up eventually. So I just have made a habit stopping, checking it, so that I don't have a broken needle or mess myself all up. Okay, so I'm going to take my thread out of the way here. And how we're going to hook this on is we are going to take our black piece up over our needle bar. Can you see that on there? Okay. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to hook in just like your normal snap-in feet. And I'm just going to click down and snap in. I didn't snap in, so a lot of times with the ruffle foot, I'll go ahead and push it up into the place. You hear that snap. Okay, a couple parts I didn't talk about, but we will see them as I put this on here. You can see them better. You have some guide marks underneath here, and that's to help you guide some fabric through there when you're adding your ruffle to a piece of fabric. I have found those don't work for me. I have more control just using my fingers. Do what's comfortable for you. Okay, so everybody scared? So am I. Just kidding. So we are going to put our fabric right in through here. Okay, so let's say I wanted to ruffle organza or some other fun fabric, a silk fabric, something of that slippery nature. This isn't going to work for us. So what I have found, you can even use just a piece of paper if you want to, but I usually take my leftover stabilizer from my embroidery or some kind of stable piece of paper to put underneath it and guide it right in.
Wet and gone tacky tape along the top edge of your fabric works good. Amazing.
Perfect. So, but I don't need to use that for the cotton. That's usually pretty good. So before I start to do my ruffles, I like to make sure, if I can, the edge of my fabric is a finished edge. So I'm going to bring this little piece up, and I found this in my scraps. Couldn't remember what I made from it until I came in this morning and saw this pillow and went, oh, well, that would be it. So for those of you that have a serger, I do a rolled edge on my ruffle before I even make the ruffle. And if I'm doing something like a towel, and I'm going to take this and show you, I will finish both the top and the bottom and make sure I'm ruffling in a bit so that I can have a ruffle on both sides, both top and bottom. Okay, so we're going to pretend I did that already. And I also, if I have a serger, remember last week's video was all about how to finish your edge with your sewing machine. So I could take my overcasting stitch, finish the edge of my fabric before I even begin. It just gives it a better look on the inside. Okay, So we have gotten our fabric, and I'm going to actually pull that out because I didn't put it in far enough for me. And I should have left my paper on there because I'm doing a single-sided one. Let's do this. Let's fold it up and give it a little more stability here. Okay, so for me, I like to put a piece of fabric underneath there and just take my hand wheel and turn it. I am making sure that my needle is clearing in the center of my machine. And I can tell it's not. It's rubbing right on the side of this foot. So what I'm going to do is raise up my presser foot. I am going to go to my screen and give Melissa a second to turn it. For those of you that have just a zigzag and a straight stitch or stitch length, I'm going to take my width. So if you're doing a straight stitch, your width control will move your needle. So I'm going to hit and move my needle to where I feel its center, and once again I'm going to lower my hand wheel to make sure that it's fitting right down in the center of the hole, and it looks like I am just a little too far, so I'm going to move it back one. Okay, and I'm going to move it back one more to make sure I am feeling really good about where I'm at. Okay, for those of you that have a machine that have a left-right shift, that would be, I should have done this before Melissa moved the picture. So the left-right shift will do the same thing as my stitch width. So once I have set that up, I might want to store that in memory, because if I store it in memory, the next time I go to use my ruffle foot, I could go to my memory and pull up that setting to use. Okay? So, are you guys all nervous? I'm not, because I love to do this. So I'm going to lower my presser foot because I'm feeling really confident. I like to start with my needle in the down position, and I can already tell you that my fabrics have bunched up there. So we're going to re-put those fabrics in because I want them to be straight.
All that needle up and needle downing.
Okay. Now I know the question is going to be asked, how do I know how wide or how far in I need to make my ruffle? Well, that's just going to depend on the project you're doing and you and what you want it to be. Remember, I ran this through all the way over, and I could have ran it over more. You have a little gap on the side here that lets you run the fabric all the way into that. So once again, I'm going to start with my needle down. And now I don't have a foot pedal, so I'm going to sew without it. And we all know how I love to do that. So I had left it on ruffle. And that's what you're going to get when you do your ruffle. Okay, so if I wanted to change how much fabric was in there, I would have gone over and changed my stitch length so that it would be bigger.
Yeah, because that's about big enough. Well, I don't even think Barbie can fit in that.
Barbie can't fit in that?
I think she's a little too hefty for that.
Okay, so let's say I'm going to pleat. I'm going to simply pick this up, move it over to number 6. I'm going to put my fabric in. I'm going to know that my needle is already in the right position. I'm going to check to make sure my needle's tight, my foot is tight on, and I'm going to go ahead and hit pleat. And I've got my sewing machine on slow. Now, when I do it at home, I go fairly fast, and I can get quite a bit done all at once, okay?
And make sure, you guys, not to pull your fabric through, or you will end up causing up some problems.
But there are times you do have to give it a little bit of a push and a guidance, especially if you're doing them really skinny. So look how quick and easy I just made a pleat. Fun, fun, fun. All right, so let's say I am doing yards and yards and yards of a pleat, and I am going to be making a bed skirt. I can do this entire step all in one step. I love this fabric. Oh, love it, love it, love it. So,
make a cute skirt for Maddie.
Wouldn't it make a cute skirt? So I'm going to take the piece that I want to ruffle on, and I'm going to slip it right underneath my ruffle foot. So I'm literally going underneath the entire foot.
So that's our flat piece, correct?
Correct. That's my skirt. Then I'm going to take the fabric that I want to ruffle, and I would have it all finished edged, but I don't. And I'm going to slip it right underneath my ruffling blade. Okay? I'm going to try my hardest now to make this straight. Another thing that I have found, you guys, is if you want to add another inch or so to your fabric, not even about an inch, and you take a few stitches, you can take that thread and help you guide it in. Okay, so I am going to have them both even. I'm going to lower my presser foot, and I'm actually going to slow my little foot down here, because I usually sew with a presser or a foot pedal, but I don't have that luxury right this second. And I'm going to go ahead and hit go, and I'm going to keep my fabrics going at the same time. Okay, and you can kind of see, because I'm going at a too slow of a speed, how I'm keeping those two even as I go through, and it's ruffling my, once I get going, I kind of make a little bit of shifting and just work with that top fabric to keep it as even as I can with the other one. Okay, so in just a second, I am going to have a cute looking skirt. Now see how we're getting towards the end, and my fingers are going to go up in here? That's when I take out the stiletto, and I can hold that bottom fabric, and that top one can have my hand controlling it. Pull it out backwards, and voila, we just made a cute little ruffle on a skirt. Take that to your ironing board and then do a top stitch, and you are done.
Ooh, that's a great place for decorative stitches.
That's a great place for decorative stitches. So that is how easy a ruffle foot is. A ruffler foot. I hope you all learned something, and you will explore with your ruffler foot.
We look forward to seeing your ruffles.
Okay, we have a couple giveaways that we were supposed to give away today, and they are right here. Oh. So we had announced that we wanted to see what was under your needle, and we have some winners.
So our winners this week are Sharon Vaughn.
So Sharon, look what you get.
Woohoo!
Perfect scissors. And if you guys haven't used these, they have rubber handles, and nice big opening, and they have like a
serrated tip.
Serrated, that's the word I'm looking for. Serrated blades, and they just snip real cool.
They're really, really, really awesome for ribbons too.
And we've got lots of different sizes.
And Emma,
you are the proud owner of a Quilter Select fabric glue stick. You could use that glue stick doing all kinds of things. Alrighty, you guys. Well, have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday for Kimberly's tricks and tips.
Next week is zippers.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yay! No, I love doing zippers, and they're so easy on your sewing machine. So we'll see you then. Bye.